You're listening to a Brain Stew Fresh Fright review.
What's up, creeps, and welcome to a brand new epic film, guys. Fresh Fright review. I'm Justin.
I'm Jeremy.
I'm BluBrry.
And on this episode, we're going to be talking about the new low-budget A24 horror film being tagged as the scariest movie you'll ever hear, Undertone, from first-time director Ian Towson. We had an opportunity to see the movie early. We're dropping this episode the day that it actually releases in theaters. Thanks to A24 for the early look, because I know from my standpoint, at least, guys, I was intrigued by this one, morbidly curious, was not over the hill with excitement, but everything I'd seen and heard so far, the one time that I saw the trailer, literally, it led me down to believe this is going to be something different and something to look forward to in some way. What about you guys?
I had literally no anticipation or expectation about this, to the point that I never even saw a trailer for it. I never read a synopsis for it.
Wow.
Went into this raw dog status, man, like just completely unprotected from knowledge of what this thing was about. And that I feel like that was a good move.
I agree, actually.
I was surprised at every direction that it was going. Like I said, I knew nothing about it, so that was super fun going into it like that.
Yeah, pretty much the same. I mean, I think I had read something about it when we were looking up like our most anticipated of the year.
Yeah.
So I kind of knew a very mild synopsis. I knew there was something involving podcasters and maybe some paranormal stuff, but I didn't watch the trailer. I didn't really dive too deep into it. Actually, when we were standing in line to get our passes, I looked at my phone to be like, make sure I'm in the right movie. Because remember last year we went to see Hard Eyes and I thought it was like Love Sucks or something, and I was
Love
like,
Stinks. You thought it was that
movie.
action movie, and instead we were there for the slasher. Yeah.
So I was like, let me make sure I got the right one. But I think just like Jeremy, like it only helped my experience to not really know what was happening or the overall gist of it.
Yeah, it's interesting to think, like, I've been watching trailers less and less these days, and it's been really helping with my enjoyment of movies, or lack thereof, depending on what, how we end up feeling about them. It's just way cooler. It reminds me of that being back in the day, when you see a trailer one time in theaters when you're going to see something else, you're like, I'm pumped for that, I can't wait to see it. And unless you saw a TV spot, on TV, or you were watching Entertainment Tonight and they'd play the trailer again, you didn't see the trailer unless you saw it again in the theater. And back then, movie theaters didn't play the same trailers for the same movies over and over again. You'd get like all kinds of different stuff for each movie, so it varied. And it's bringing me back to a time where you could kind of be surprised a little bit by a movie. And like I said, I saw the trailer for this one time, maybe a few months back. And I'm also glad that I didn't go in and watch it 100 times or anything like that. But for those uninitiated, first and foremost, as always, unless otherwise stated, this is full spoiler. And be ready, if they don't know what this movie's about, let them know what Undertone is.
Yeah, so the host of an all things creepy podcast moves into her dying mother's house to be her primary caregiver, and when her podcast has sent 10 audio recordings of a young pregnant couple experiencing paranormal noises, she realizes the woman's story is a mirror of her own, and each new recording scratches at her sanity, drawing her into a fate she cannot escape.
Absolutely. I guess right from the get-go, I think the one thing to mention to people is, if you're going to go see this movie, I would at least say, try to see it in the best possible theater with the best possible sound. Luckily, we had the amazing opportunity to see it in a Dolby Cinema, which is known for the best possible sound you can get. I know a lot of other theaters, Dolby Cinemas probably won't be playing this, because we could tell from the formatting of the visual, it was not formatted or shot for Dolby Cinema or anything like that. But the sound mix absolutely was. Jumping right in, Jeremy, what were your first impressions of Undertone?
So I don't think that this movie is going to be for everybody. I'm going to say that first and foremost. I think it will either work for people or it will not work for people, and they will hate it. I feel like this is a movie that there's not going to be a whole lot of middle ground.
I agree.
Um,
I agree.
the f- the first two acts of the movie were, to put it nicely, I guess, tedious at times to get through, and especially not knowing what this was about at all. Um, there were points in the first two acts where I'm just like, dude, is this going anywhere? I just didn't know if the story was literally going anywhere. And I guess I was also like waiting for typical horror tropes to start happening, right? And what was really refreshing about this movie is they could have easily James Wand the shit out of this, right? With the jump scares and the tropes that are now very popular and famous because of all the Conjuring universe films. They didn't. And that was a breath of fresh air. But again, also, I was just like, where is this going? And then when the third act hits, it ties everything together. And I feel like the first two acts, despite how rough they are, it's necessary to get where it ended to go, and it's just a journey. And honestly, like your quote, Justin, really captured it perfectly. It is an exercise in patience, and it's a slow burn movie, and I love a slow burn movie. This one just moved a little bit slower than
Yeah, a
typical
little bit.
ones.
A little bit, yeah.
But I mean, yeah, I mean, the movie blew me away. So I mean, that was for sure my first reaction to this.
Be ready.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like with A24, Jeremy and I kind of talked about it before the screening, and there are more, excuse me, there's more hits than misses for me when it comes to an A24 film. But I do think that there's a level of overhype that comes along with it. So going into it, I was like, all right, is this going to be like something that really blows me away, or something that it's going to take until the last 5 minutes of the movie for me to be like, oh, I see the hidden message. Where I actually think I saw somebody comment, Justin, on one of your posts where they were like, oh, typical A24 movie where, it does this, this, and this. And I was, anyway,
Yep,
so
yeah, I
going
saw
into
that.
going into it, I was like, all right, what are we going to get? And, much like Jeremy, I think the first 20 to 30 minutes or so is very slow burn, very drawn out, a little tedious. I personally, because we're all been on this podcast for years, was kind of looking at some things like, they're doing it that way, or like, I don't know if that's how you actually run a podcast. But I was like, whatever. And when they were like, how about we pause and come back to it on Tuesday to finish this? And I was like, whoa, that's an option. But
if you pay a really good editor, yeah,
right. Outside of all of that, when the movie finally, it's almost like a fishing game, right? Like the lure is going, it's going, you're following it, and then once you bite it, it hooks you. Like that's what it felt like. I can't remember the last time that I had a movie that made me sweat through my ass with how scared I was. Like I was legit terrified, sweating in that seat. And there was a point where I was able to look away from the screen and look at all of us sitting in a row, and we all had the same expression, like just glued to the screen. So
absolutely, I couldn't disagree with anything either of you said. It's a movie that focuses everything on sound, and this isn't the first time that we've had one of these. I know when the first A Quiet Place movie came out, that movie was also completely focused on, the majority of it was just the sound, because you can't talk in the movie. You have to whisper and move around quietly. But this takes it to another deeper, further level in terms of the frights and the suspense. I also, knowing that it's a film about a horror podcaster, I was like, okay, this is what we do all the time. Do I really want to watch a movie about it? I should be championing it, but I somehow started to get annoyed by it pretty quickly. But I really think that the character of Evie, played by Nina Kiri, really drew me in because of what she's dealing with having to move from her own home in with her mom, who's sick and dying, very near death. She hasn't eaten or drank anything in several days. And she's just literally trying to live her life and deal with this problem. And I kind of connected with that and how she used podcasting and her connection with her friend Justin in this thing they do to kind of try to move away from it. So anytime she was not dealing with that, she was kind of, using the podcast as therapy in a way. And I really thought, like, man, that's absolutely true. Like that, there's nothing more true than that. But I also agree with both of you. When I say it's an exercise in patience, it truly is, because I felt like this is very similar in a lot of ways to Skinamarink, which I did not like. I think this movie does what Skinamarink tried, but excels at it and really executes it perfectly, or near perfectly, I should say. Marrying the images to the sound, that's what film is all about. But this movie does it in a way where every shot is connected to the sound. It moves and flows with every single moment of it. Yes, that's what every movie should technically do, but Undertone has this certain fluid nature to it that just moves everything along. And yes, the first 2 acts, it takes a while to get there. There are a couple of jumps and jolts there to get you moving, but that 3rd act, and I shit you not, I mean this, guys, like I can't, there's no hyperbole about it. Like that 3rd act, when it kicks in, my legs were stiff. They continued to get goosebumps over and over and over again. My jaw was wide open. I couldn't breathe. My senses were fatigued completely. My ears were going numb. The sound was so intense, connected to those images, that I was just like taken aback by it. Like it literally floored me. And that hasn't happened in a horror movie in a long, long time. I think, Jeremy, we were talking after the movie a little bit, and I said the last time I felt that way was probably James Wan's The Conjuring 2, where something really grabbed me that hard and shook me over and over again. And I honestly likened it to like an amusement, like an amazing Disney haunted house attraction where they would just like batter your senses consistently until you're like done with. Like I felt almost like an orgasm by the end of the movie. You know what I mean? Like that release, like, oh, I can breathe. And that hasn't happened to me in a long, long time. And I know, like you said, I totally agree with this. Your mileage with this is going to vary. Absolutely. I saw people commenting on my quote on it and saying, you're fucking wrong. This movie's boring as shit. I'm like, okay, well, everyone's different. And if you go in with a certain mindset and expectation, this movie may not be there for you. But if you go in with very little or a very specific mindset, I think you could really walk away feeling the way that I did, for sure.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I agreed with you completely when you said The Conjuring 2, because The Conjuring 2 frightened me. Like legitimately, the movie scared me when I was in the theater, and I have not felt that since that movie. So you nailed that. And you know what I've tried to explain to people is this movie reminds me of the Blair Witch Project, not in story and not in how it was filmed, but completely in tone and how horrific and haunting that ending is, that it stays with you long after the movie's gone. I called Justin that night when I drove home, but I haven't told you, Brady.
Oh wow. Oh my God, here we go.
This is how much this movie affected me. So I was driving my wife's car to the screening or whatever, and I got back into my neighborhood, and there's a 7-Eleven in my neighborhood. And so I stopped at the 7-Eleven. I was like, I'm going to go get a drink. So I go in there and I grab a drink and I come back. And as I'm driving her car and I'm like almost to my street, I realize that the light in the back seat of my wife's car is on. And it's the kind that you have to physically touch to turn it on. It was not on before when I was driving back from the theater. And then I realized, I was like, dude, I didn't lock her car when I went to go buy that drink. So I thought someone was like fucking urban legending me.
Oh my God.
And there was going to be somebody in the fucking back seat that maybe accidentally hit the button when they like snuck in the car. I was absolutely convinced that there was a fucking human being hiding in that car, bro. I need to look at my Ring footage because I swerved into my driveway like the fucking car was on fire, and I jumped out of the car like an explosion was about to happen. I immediately turned the light on my phone on and walked all the way around her car, fully expecting to see a human hiding in the car. And, there wasn't. So I don't know how the fuck the light got turned on or whatever. But when I got inside, like, I was like so scared, and I was like, dude, this movie got me. It fucking got me. It shook my senses and terrified me.
Yeah.
So I just thought I'd tell you my little story on that. And like, yeah,
Jesus.
I think the last time I saw a movie where like it was like that was outside of Paranormal Activity was 2003's Texas Chainsaw Massacre, when I went to go see it with friends when I was in high school. I remember being scared as fuck walking from the car back into my house. So that's just that feeling reminded me of those feelings.
Yeah, I'm
Oh,
sure you
dude,
were
totally.
in the car probably singing, "Baba Black Sheep, have you any wool?"
Well, I think it's almost the same thing for me as like when I saw The Exorcist, and I was raised in a pretty religious household. And whether or not I believe in those things anymore, it's like there's always still something there that like I instantly get thrown back to childhood, like being so scared about hearing stories of like demonic possessions, or there's always something like hiding in these things. And this one, I got home and I was like, I don't think that I want to pee alone. Like Faye went to go go to the bedroom, and I was like, whoa, wait, like just sit in the hallway for a second. Like it was unsettling, and it's Jeremy, you called it like very similar to Blair Witch and Justin Conjuring 2. For me, it was all of those, and especially the first Conjuring where they're in that basement and the camera is just settled on like a dark corner, like nothing's happening, but you're just waiting, and almost like the blue balls you get from waiting to have nothing happen. Like that's what this movie does perfectly throughout the moments that before it hits breakneck speed, right? Like, I mean, how many times can you guys count that there was something, the way the camera shifts while she's on the podcast, and it's just
And you think you're
looking,
going to see something in
and
the
I'm
darkness?
squinting, I'm
Yeah.
looking at the stairs.
Same.
I was like, maybe. I felt like it was almost like what is it? The Haunting of Hill House, where Mike Flanagan came out and was like, yeah, there's like 300 ghosts in the background. I was looking for that, and it's not there, but you're trained to know there's something there.
And it adds to that element of reminding yourself when you were a kid and you'd watch a horror movie at home by yourself. For example, the first time I wasn't a kid, I was an adult, but the first time I watched Insidious was actually at home. And I was really excited about it. I turned all the lights off and I was watching it, and the sounds in the movie, I was looking around my apartment like thinking they were happening there in person. This movie, they're listening to these audio files that this pregnant couple has sent to them to investigate, and she's feeling like she's experiencing that in that house, that she's there with her mother as her mother's dying. It really helps that the movie feels so isolated because it is just her and her mother in this house. We hear other characters' names, we hear other characters' voices, but we never see a single other character except for her mom and the nurse. I think we just hear the nurse's voice. We don't even see the nurse. So we only see literally two characters in person the entire movie. And that's something that I feel like shouldn't possibly work in a movie, but it absolutely does. And Towson, along with the sound designer David Gertzman and cinematographer Graham Beasley, they really put all these elements together and made it so immersive. And it felt like you were right there with them the whole time. And I think as much as we were frustrated by some of the first and second act, I think it is absolutely intentional to kind of get you on like unnerved and on your senses on point, so that when something finally does happen and you get some anomalies in the audio that they're listening to, married to, like you said, Brady, that dark shadow in the background that you're possibly thinking something's coming out of, and then it doesn't happen. Then when it finally does happen, this is a Wanism, I guess you could say. James Wan is perfect at this. Then when he finally nails you with it, you're floored. You're on the floor. You're done with.
Yeah, I also think it's very reminiscent of the feelings that I had around Sinister, like when that came out.
Oh yeah,
this movie is definitely falls into the category of like grief horror, right? That A24 has been
A24, yeah,
well known for. But I think this one sets itself apart because it's not even just like you're watching it, but like you're feeling the grief, right? You're hearing everything that you're supposed to. So instead of just seeing something that scares you, it's more so what you're hearing. You're hearing the emotions that Evie is having, and that Justin on the other end is too. Who, let's be honest, sounded kind of like a little bitch sometimes. Like the entire time where he's like, I don't know that I want to do this anymore, Evie, and she's fucking chugging Irish whiskey, being like, shut the fuck up and play it.
Well, also she lied about drinking again, but here's the weird thing. She's the skeptic. He's the believer. So I love that there was two sides to that, right? But also Brady, I was just going to be honest. When I heard his voice, I was like, he kind of sounds a little bit like Brady. He sounds so polite and nice, like a nice young man.
I think he played, if I'm not mistaken, he was in White Lotus season 2.
Oh, okay. All right.
But yeah, I also think that it's kind of like, it's very cool how this movie is created to almost be like a live podcast episode,
Absolutely.
you know?
Yeah.
Like, I think that in itself is more impressive than anything else in this, and almost groundbreaking. Like, I don't know that we've seen another one that has podcasting as a big part of it, but still sounds like it's being a podcast, you know?
Yeah, the audio quality was amazing. Absolutely. I mean, whoever their editor is, I don't know if it's either one of them. I'd love to hire them if they were a real person. For their really
probably
expensive
Danielle.
though. I'm like, they must have a lot of money for, like, they have nice mics and shit. I'm like, okay, well, anyway, but a lot of people listen to scary podcasts. A lot of people listen to true crime podcasts and paranormal podcasts, and this does play out in the same way. You're kind of following along with that story in the same way you would as a listener, but now you're viewing the behind the scenes of what they're dealing with. On top of that, like you said, Brady, she's going through this shit. Her mom is dying, and she's, cleaning up the bed. Her mom is waiting for that death rattle. And there is a sense of guilt she has, because she even said, like, how long is this going to take? She wants to move on from this. But then she also feels guilty about her feelings on her relationship with her mother. She can't communicate with her any longer. And of course, her religious upbringing, which is referenced numerous times in the movie. And through the audio files, which we have to talk about the audio files. We've seen other movies use, like, children's fairy tales or songs and made them scary, but this did it in a way
Darkness Falls.
Yeah,
love it.
But I mean, the fact that this took, like, London Bridge, Baba Black Sheep, a bunch of them, and did this play on it, like, where if you spin it backwards, there's like some demonic, or violent reasoning behind the songs. And I actually really liked that. I thought that was very effective the way they did it.
Did too. I also really appreciated that they could make a movie that's this effective in basically one location.
Yeah.
With only one actor that is basically speaking that you can see on camera. Because, Justin is always off camera. He's just always on the phone or on the podcast with her. And then the mom, she obviously doesn't have any, like, speaking parts. She's
You just hear,
basically in hospice in that bed. Yeah, dude. But, I mean, it's just really impressive that, it's the same thing as Paranormal Activity. It's like, if you can tell a really engaging, scary movie in one setting with, like, 1 to 2 actors, like, that's pretty phenomenal writing and an achievement for whoever the director and sound designers are, because make no mistake, this movie, the sound design is a character in this movie. And my almost 10-year-old was asking me about the movie the other day, and I was explaining it to her, and she was like, so what did the ghost look like? And I was like,
oh no.
Well, you don't see the ghost. She was like, so how is that scary? I was like, because you can hear the ghosts, and you can hear,
Did you say
I tried
we're
to
gonna
explain to
take
her.
a drive? We're gonna go see it, Scarlett.
Yeah. Oh my God. She would be back to camping out in our room again.
I was almost camping out in your room. I almost drove
Come
my ass
on
down
in,
and be like,
buddy.
"Hey,
Can we hide under the blankie
you
together?
guys take one more?"
Oh my God.
I mean, the movie has a lot to say, not just about grief, but like you were saying, just about religious overtones, motherhood, like Evie. It's never heavy-handed so much, where, like, you find out that Evie's pregnant, and then there's
Right.
a lot of baby crying noises. I mean, there's one scene in particular in that final act that I'm sure we'll get to that includes something happening to a baby that I was like, there's no fucking way that they're doing that, and they did. And
They did.
that was when I was like, holy shit. But even just caretaking, like that whole aspect of what Justin you were saying about, all right, well, my mom's dying, I want to be there for her, but also, like, I guess she's been there for, it sounds like 2 months or something like that from the boyfriend. Or just that guilt where she's like, all right, well, I'm finally gonna go have a party tonight, and then comes home and the mom's like on the floor bloody. So I think the movie does a good job not getting caught up in, like, a quagmire of just being so fucking heavy and so ham-fisted with saying, all right, we're going to talk about this again, and we're going to go through all this.
It's all there. I mean, it's all on the surface. I mean, but it's still deep, but it's not super fleshed out in a way where it's beating you over the head with it. Also, I love how we know Evie's not sleeping, right? Also, this is something that we talked about. I think you leaned over to me, like, whispered, Brady, in the movie. You're like, they're fucking recording at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
Because Justin, I guess, is in the UK or something, which would make sense.
Yeah.
That they'd record it. But I'm like, 3 a.m. But the fact that she's not sleeping, it seems like she's starting to take her mother's medication, and she's starting to also hallucinate a lot of these things, like the way she starts hearing these sounds, and her mother's apparently sleepwalking, or she thinks she's sleepwalking, and that adds to the tension and the scares, where you'll just see like the shape of her mom just like standing, like those are just simple concepts that really work really well. It just goes to show, much to what you were saying earlier, Jeremy, you don't need to James Wan it up and give us constant, like I kept expecting and waiting for like a white face to pop up as a close up, like a real quick zoom. You don't get that in this movie. It literally just plays on the sound in the image so specifically and so simply that it works. And you forget that like a movie that simple, that basic can still work if it's done well.
Mm-hmm. I also think as we're, kind of in the middle of this review and heading towards the end, it's not all a win for sure. Like it's not a perfect movie by any means. But
No.
for the $500,000 budget,
it's insane. Yeah,
it's
500,000.
insane
Wow.
One of the things that stuck out for me that I think I would have liked a little more, is that you want to remain vague in horror. You don't want to just like spoon feed the audience, but I think I would have preferred to have a little bit more to do with the actual demon itself. Like, what is this? Because it felt like it was almost like an amalgamation of like 5 different demons. I would have maybe liked to see some specific imagery of what this one looked like. And because I was like, all right, so is it a demon that's possessing all these people through the centuries, or is it a different thing for each? You know what I mean? Like it was a little confusing. So that's kind of like the flip side of not being given too much information. It's like maybe I would have liked a little more with that.
Yeah,
I don't know.
that's very fair. I mean, to me, I liked the ambiguous nature to it all. I liked just hearing the audio and then kind of visualizing it for myself. And then by the end of it, obviously, what I love about it is that with each piece of audio they listen to, the experiences start getting more intense, and that's what's building the movie towards that third act so well. Because I won't lie, like I said to you guys, the first 20, 30 minutes, I'm like, okay, I see where this is going. It's okay. I'm like kind of looking around. I remember specifically turning to you, Brady, and going like this, like, the kind of like my hands are up, like, okay, like, all right, here we are. This is what we're doing. But it takes that audio and it allows you to, in your own imagination, your own, theater of the mind, come up with what's going on. I loved how scary that was. Just hearing this, it's what fans of horror podcasts and true crime and paranormal podcasts listen to all the time. That's why they like them so much, I think. But I don't disagree. There could have been a little bit more, not necessarily lore, but maybe backstory behind the whole thing. I liked that it was just so random that
did too.
This couple just sent these audio files to them, and then boom, they're playing them. They've never listened to them. It was pretty scary shit.
I think sometimes it's scarier that something just is rather than knowing why it is. You know what I mean? Like, and I loved, was it he hides in the 10th recording or she hides in the 10th recording?
It's one of the two, but recall. that 10th audio file was the one that's inevitable doom, basically, like the one that was going to let it all out.
Yeah, that basically once you commit to listening to all of these recordings, and once you hit play on that 10th recording, basically it's like releasing a genie, right? You're releasing this demonic entity into your home once you commit to listening to that 10th recording. You just don't know it at the time until it happens, which I think is a fucking terrifying concept. That once it's the tale as old as time that, when you mess with these things, you're inviting these things, right? Whether you fully believe in it or not, when you play with those things, you're absolutely inviting it. It's the same reason my wife won't let me own a Ouija board in our house. Not that I would want one anyways, but she's like, listen, do you really? Yeah, Anne's like, no, like that is just like basically inviting something to come and communicate and hang around, and fuck that. You can have your life-size Freddy Kruegers in the basement. You can have your life-size aliens, but no, she was very specific. No Ouija boards and no Babadook book, because that one fucked her up too. So I'm like, all right, I'll take it.
In a book.
Yep.
I also one other kind of gripe that I have with it is, when we're in the end and you open that 10th file and they're getting live phone calls, Justin and Evie, from people being like, "Hey, do you have any information?" And somebody calls in and it sounds like, she's struggling with her crying baby, and she's like, "I'm a bad person." It sounds like she's putting a plastic bag, and Evie tries
Bad.
to validate her and be like, "Hey, like, I'm also a bad person because I killed my mom." And you're like, at that point I was like, "Holy shit, are we going to get like some sort of altered like reality here where we haven't been seeing the right thing?" But then it kind of falls flat for me, where she's like, she always wanted me to pray with her, and I didn't. I stopped avoiding her. I stopped taking her calls and blah blah blah. And then, she stopped talking, so I killed her. And I was like, sure, like, you've done so well with the guilt portion of it in this movie up until that point, and it just felt like it was reaching and just missed the mark for me. Now, that being said, I got over that pretty quickly, because what happens afterwards is you hear the sounds on the phone of what it sounds like the woman taking the baby in a bag and banging it against the wall.
Dude, nightmare fucking fuel. Just from that sound, like, that's gonna stay with you.
Yep.
Fucking stay with you.
The wet flesh, and oh my god. Yeah. And then like Jeremy said, like, that 10th file is opened, and I mean, almost like the gates of hell, like, things just start going fucking crazy.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, the movie opens up
Dude.
like Pandora's box, basically. Like, every single trick they have in the book, they just unleash on the audience with that blackout sequence, guys, that literally just no other movie I've seen holds you that tightly with nothing on the screen except for sound. That's just why it reminded me of like a fucking Disney attraction or something that you go to in the 90s, where it was like, whoa, what is this? It was so immersive and pulled you in so deeply. Spine-tingling, man, I'm telling you. I get goosebumps a lot when I watch movies. I'm a very emotional person. My number one thing I want to get out of a movie is some kind of feeling, whether I'm happy or sad or horrified or entertained. This movie did a lot of those things, but I could feel it physically affecting me, which not a lot of horror movies do to me anymore. This ending is probably one of the best endings of any horror movie I've seen in a very long time. And it's all due to that sound design.
100%. I agree. I mean, once the shit starts hitting the fan in the third act, you literally feel like you're sitting in that dining room with Evie, and you're watching her get these phone calls from these people, and you start hearing these multiple voices, and lights start going off and on, and all of these crazy things. And then there's that fucking scary ass religious statue that it's like basically,
With the babies,
it's like a
crawling up in.
motherhood.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a motherhood statue of like, basically, like a mother gives her life for her children. Like is kind of what the statue embodied, and that plays a role in the finale, because she had hid that in a closet because she was like freaked the fuck out by it. And she comes upstairs when all the shit starts hitting the fan, and her mom is no longer in the bed, but that statue is there. And dude, that scared the fuck out of me.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It just
Got some kitten action in here. Brady's got some kittens in
I
I'm trying to mute it a little bit, but they're looking to be.
No, they're just
the
kittens.
The mom is like, fuck that.
I was so blown away by this ending that even when it ended, I remember looking over at Brady and being like, I don't know how I felt about that movie.
Right.
And I literally, as soon as it ended, I didn't know. I was like, did I like that? Did I hate that? Did I love that? Did that just scare the fuck out of me? Because I feel like it did. And it was one of those things that it took some time for me to really start mentally digesting what I had just seen. And by the time that I got home, I was just like, or even by the time I got to the car and I was like wrapping my head around what I had just seen, I really can't, there are things that you can say it kind of has this vibe to it, but I don't think I've seen anything quite like that before. And because of that, it's one of those things. It's like when you hear a new band or a new sound for the first time, you're like, I think I need some time to figure out how I feel about that. And that was definitely this movie for me, for sure. It really surprised me.
Yeah, dude. So I think it's time to throw it down, guys. Final thoughts and trash it or treasure it and be ratty. I'm throwing it to you first, my man.
Yeah, I mean, just kind of a recap of everything. Like it's something that I don't think that we've experienced before, from a technical sound standpoint to the visceral nature of what you're seeing on the screen, married with perfect sound engineering and design. Um, yeah, it's not a perfect movie. Doesn't need to be. You don't have to get caught up in the nitty gritty of everything being explained to you. It's Jeremy, you just said it. Like it's got parts of things that we've all seen and loved, like Sinister, like Insidious, like The Conjuring, like Blair Witch. I mean, even as recent as The Night House that came out in 2021, I think, or 2022. Like, there's so many great things moving this forward. I'm super excited to see this director take on, I think, what Paranormal Activity is.
Yeah,
What
he's doing the reboot. Yeah, can't wait.
So for me, I think that this could be the best horror that we've seen this year so far, and in the running to be, it's title to lose at this point. So it's a treasure for me.
J Dog.
Yeah, I mean, Brady nailed it, man. It was unlike anything that I've experienced in a very, very long time, and it was unique, it was original, it was unsettling. It made me feel a lot of things, which is more than most horror films do these days. And it tried new things, and I feel like they all worked, and the sound design was brilliant. Um, the way that it was shot was brilliant, and it scared me, man. Like, it legitimately scared me, and if a horror movie can get under my skin like that in 2026, when I've been watching horror films since I was, like, 6 years old, then it has to be a treasure for me. But again, this is gonna be one of those movies that, like I said in the beginning of the review, that people are either gonna love it
Yeah.
and really champion it, or they're gonna fucking hate it and tell you that you're wrong for liking it, which is always kind of funny.
Already been told 5 or 6 times that I'm wrong about it.
Yeah, it's just funny. It's like, listen, if something didn't work for you, that's fine, and that's like your opinion, man. But
Yeah, yeah.
this totally worked for me, and I cannot wait to see what this writer director does with Paranormal Activity and what they do moving forward with any film, because they just gained a fan out of me for sure. So definitely a treasure.
I mean, directorial debut, guys. He wrote this thing. He directed it. He's done some shorts before, but this guy's clearly got some talent. I mean, this was visceral. This movie grabs you by the hair, twists you around, throws you all over the place, and chills up the spine, man. It literally had me that whole third act, and it's a testament to just great creative direction. This movie did something like you guys both said. We've seen elements of what's in this movie in plenty of other movies. We've heard it in plenty of other movies, but he captured something that really kind of permeated the senses and just really sat you down in your seat and, put you through the ringer. It's just an experience. That's what a horror movie like this should be. And I'm glad someone took the chance of doing something slightly different that we hadn't seen in a long time, in terms of really capturing and focusing in on the sound elements, which let's face it, guys, sound has always been probably the most important, if not one of the most, if not the most important element of any horror movie, is the sound, because that's what kind of, puts you on edge, gives you those goosebumps. Absolutely a treasure for me. I had a great time with it. And yeah, I wouldn't disagree with you at all, Jeremy. I think this is that one movie, or one of those, that people are going to be on one side of the fence or the other. There is this stigma against A24, in which I say I don't give a shit. Like, I like most of their movies. I don't like all of them, but I do like the style, and I like that we have this as an option, like with Neon movies and when you have the Blumhouse movies and everything else. Like, it's good that we have variety in these movies, because if they were all the fucking same, it would be extremely boring for us to watch all of them. But ladies and gentlemen, take the chance to see Undertone if you are a fan of horror in general, or just want your senses to be battered and beaten, and to walk out feeling something. Go see Undertone in theaters this weekend. If it's your first time listening to the show, thanks for checking us out. If you are a long-time listener, thanks for sticking with us. This is the, I believe, 12th year that Epic Film Guys has been in existence, so we're still doing this shit, and we're going to keep doing this shit till we no longer can. We're available on every single podcast platform known to man, and of course, at Epic Film Guys on all social media platforms. So until next time, I'm Justin.
I'm Jeremy.
I'm Be Ready.
And as always, we like to ask you to keep that shit
Baby.